Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thanks for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we're doing the Bohachuk versus Ortiz breakdown and prediction video, as we are going to look at the interim super welterweight title fight at 154 pounds. And I'm going to break that fight down between Sergey Bohachuk, the new champion that was crowned earlier this year, as he battles the undefeated, the exciting Virgil Ortiz Jr. in a really good matchup right here that I'm very much so looking forward to. I think it's going to be a good, entertaining bout. It's going to take place on Saturday, August 10th, in the main event of a DAZN card. And you know, again, this is just an exciting matchup between these two fighters. You know, coming your way right here. You know, if you haven't seen my breakdown videos before, how they work is I fully break down the fight. I talk about the fight itself, what it means, what's at stake, and then I get into each fighter individually. Now, this is an interim title fight, so in this fight, there is an interim champion. So Bohachuk will discuss him first, and then we'll move into Ortiz, talk about what they've done coming into the fight, what they need to do, all that good stuff. I ask the same questions on both sides, and then at the end, I have a final question and then my prediction on the fight. So let's get into it. What does this fight mean? What is at stake here? This is a huge fucking fight at 154 pounds. A lot at stake. It really is. If you don't know Sergey Bohachuk, I didn't really either up until March 30th. He was supposed to fight for the vacant title against Sebastian Fundora, the vacant WBC belt, but Fundora, when Keith Thurman got hurt, Fundora got upgraded to the main event against Tim Tszyu, and the vacant WBC and the WBO title would be on the line. That meant Bohachuk would be able to fight for the interim title, and he would take on previous interim champion Brian Mendoza, who never lost the interim title in the ring. He went on, after capturing the interim title with a knockout victory over Sebastian Fundora last year. Mendoza moved over to fight for the WBO belt against Tim Tszyu, and the vacant title would, the interim title would go vacant, and they would reinstate it for the fight between Bohachuk and Mendoza, and the belt would be on the line, and Bohachuk would capture the belt. So, that was a big win right there. He's coming into this fight hot. He is. He's had probably his three best wins in his last three fights that date back to January of last year, 2023, where he knocked out veteran Nathaniel Gallimard with a 6-round knockout victory. Then he went on and fought Patrick Alati, who's a veteran as well, and he stopped him, and I believe that was the first round. Excuse me. And then he went 12 full rounds with Brian Mendoza, dominating him from start to finish with a one-sided 12-round unanimous decision, as he actually went the distance for the first time in his career, and it just so happened to be a 12-rounder as well. He comes in with I think it's 24-1 with 23 knockouts. His lone defeat came in 2021 against Brandon Adams in a fight that he was winning convincingly on the cards, and then got stopped in the 8th round of that fight. He's coming in with a 2-inch height and a 3-inch reach advantage. He's a knockout fighter. This, on paper, is the toughest fight of Virgil Ortiz's career. So Bohachuk is coming in also in the biggest fight of his career, though. And he's coming in actually the underdog. But if he could secure this victory, this would be huge for him. It would move him really, if you really want to think about it, it moves him into like the top 3 land at 154, because he beat the guy that beat the guy. I mean, he dominated Brian Mendoza who knocked out Sebastian Fundora last year, and Fundora went and captured 2 of the belts by beating Tim Tszyu back in March. So Bohachuk would really move up the ladder and be knocking on the door, and he'd be in direct line for a world title shot. So a win, an upset victory here would be huge for him. Now, what does he need to do to win this fight? And it's interesting because we mentioned the 2-inch height, the 3-inch reach advantage. He needs to take advantage of those. He needs to try to get Virgil into the deep waters. Virgil has never been 12 full rounds in his career. He needs to take him into the championship rounds and drown him. That's what he needs to do. He needs to box. He needs to use his height and reach. And he needs to be in fantastic shape to be able to do that. Because Virgil Ortiz brings it. He brings it. He brings the pain. And if he can do that and not run out of gas himself, I think he might be able to defeat Virgil Ortiz and retain his interim belt and move in line for something bigger. Now, can Sergey Bohachuk win this fight by knockout? I think he can. If Bohachuk has that, he's a knockout fighter. 24-1, 23 knockouts. I mean, that's fucking insane right there. And if he can figure out a way to hurt Virgil Ortiz early or to wear him down, I think the possibility of a knockout is absolutely there, and I think he might be able to pull it out. Now, can he win by a decision? Yeah, he's the taller fighter. He knows how to box as well. He's a good boxer puncher, and I think there's a possibility at a decision victory for him here. So yeah, I can see that for sure. Now, can he? What does a win mean for Bohachuk here? This would cement him in the really serious mix for 154. It really would. It would make him a serious player, because he's trying to prove himself.
Despite slower than usual traffic.
He's trying to prove himself in a major way right here against top competition. And Virgil Ortiz is, a growing young lion in the division. A win here for Bohachuk would be monumental. It would put him in direct line for something huge, and especially if it's a convincing win. So a win means a lot. Now, what does a loss mean for Bohachuk? He's got 1 loss in his career. He's coming in the underdog. If he loses his fight, I don't think many people are going to be surprised, but how he loses, I think, matters. If he comes out and gets the shit beat out of him by Ortiz, if it's a one-sided performance, then that would hurt him. But if he comes out and really gives a great account of himself, shows his heart, shows his passion, shows, goes out on his shield by knockout or loses a close decision, he's going to remain a serious player. So he really needs to adopt that attitude if he's got nothing to lose going into this fight. So now we switch over to the challenger for the interim title, the undefeated Virgil Ortiz Jr., as he comes in again as the challenging opponent for the WBC interim belt. Now, rolling into this fight, Ortiz, his last 3 fights date back to August of 2022, when he challenged, when he took on fellow undefeated Michael McKinson, but unknown fighter. He wore down McKinson, stopped him in the 9th round of that fight, and remained undefeated. He would not fight for close to a year and a half after that. He returned, I think it was 17 months later, in January of this year, when he took on little-known Frederick Clausen, dominated him, first-round stoppage win. Then he returned a few months ago against Thomas Delorme, the former world title challenger, and he dominated him with a first-round stoppage as well. So, he's confident right now. I wouldn't say he's hot because of who he's beating, but he is definitely confident rolling into this fight, or else he wouldn't have taken it, or else he wouldn't have been talking to Tim Tszyu wanting that fight, because that was the original plan. And it wasn't Virgil that pulled out. Tim Tszyu had to pull out because he wouldn't have been fully healed from his horrific cut that he suffered against Sebastian Fundora. But he's coming into this fight. I think he's confident. I think he's ready to go. I really do believe that. And I think he is hungry as hell to prove himself as one of the top dogs at 154. I absolutely believe that. So what does he need to do? What kind of style? What does he need to do to win this fight against Sergey Bohachuk? And it's an interesting matchup for him. It really is. I think he needs to body attack. It needs to be a body attack on Bohachuk. You saw that he got stopped late in his lone defeat against Brandon Adams. I think he needs to analyze that fight. I think he needs to attack the body. I think he needs to use his speed and try to get on the inside and land something big early. And I think he really needs to try to get Bohachuk out of there in the middle to later rounds, before it gets deep into the fight. Because I think if this fight gets to the championship rounds, I think it could be anybody's game. I really believe that. Bohachuk is a smart, talented fighter, and he's got power. So, again, this is the toughest fight of Virgil Ortiz's career. He's coming in the favorite, and I think he should be the favorite, but Bohachuk is no joke. This is a good opponent right here, and I'm really looking forward to seeing Ortiz in there with him. Now, can Virgil Ortiz win this fight by knockout? And I think he can. He's knocked out every one of his opponents. We knew he was a big welterweight. He's brought his power up to super welter at 154, and he's scored a couple knockouts already. I think he can win this fight by knockout. I think he can win by a one-punch type knockout or a wear-down Bohachuk type knockout. Can Ortiz win a decision? You know, it's going to be interesting to see. I think he can. We just have never seen him go the distance. But I think he's good enough to outwork Bohachuk. Now, one thing I forgot with Bohachuk, I'm going to ask it for both now, is what is more likely for a Bohachuk victory over Ortiz, what's more likely, a knockout or a decision? It's tough to say, but I got to say a knockout for Bohachuk because he's a knockout type fighter, and he hasn't really been the distance outside of his last fight, but that was the biggest win of his career. So I do feel it's close to 50-50, but I still got to say it's more likely a knockout victory because he's more of a knockout fighter, and Ortiz has also never been a full 12 rounds. So those are two key things. For Ortiz, what's more likely, a knockout or a decision if he is victorious? And again, for him, I'd say a knockout as well. I think a knockout's more likely if he gets his hand raised. Now, what does a victory mean for Virgil Ortiz here? It means everything. I really believe this is the biggest win of his career if he achieves it. Bohachuk's not a big name, but he will become an interim champion. And at 154 right now, this might be the best division in boxing. There's some rumors that Jermell Charlo says he's back at 154. You got Terrence Crawford. You got Sebastian Fundora, Tim Tszyu, Errol Spence Jr. This is a loaded fucking division right now. And a victory for Ortiz only puts him in that serious mix that he wants because, you know, him and Tim Tszyu have already said that fight is going to happen in the future. So a victory here for Ortiz puts him on that main level player, not just a up and comer, not just a hopeful. He is on the serious note as a serious player at 154. A very serious player, and that's a big deal right there. So a win here would be huge. Now, what does a loss mean for Ortiz? A loss creates a big setback, but it depends on how he loses, because we also don't know how good Bohachuk is yet. If Bohachuk beats Virgil Ortiz, I'm not going to be surprised in the slightest. I think Bohachuk is a very live underdog in this fight, and I think he could be the better fighter. This style that Bohachuk has could be a very tough matchup for Ortiz to overcome. So, if Ortiz loses, depending on how he loses, he goes out and gets the shit beat out of him, then you know, that really changes the narrative, obviously. People aren't going to take him as serious. They're going to think he might be overhyped. But if he goes out and he fights his ass off and he fights really well, but comes up short, well, I don't think people criticize so much. So I think, you know, it depends on how he loses, but either way, a loss does hurt Virgil Ortiz and is a pretty solid setback. So now that we've talked about both fighters, my final question is, for both fighters, is it better for boxing if Virgil Ortiz Jr. wins this fight, or is it better if Sergey Bohachuk retains his title, his interim title? And this one's easy for me. It's better for boxing if Virgil Ortiz wins. The story of 21-0 with 21 knockouts, and it's gonna keep the mystique of this guy's never been defeated. You know, he's a Mexican fighter, which just, those are attractive fighters with power, with skill. You know, that is huge for boxing. He's already a star right now, a very fast rising star, just because of his style and his undefeated record and his perfect knockout record. So those all scream at boxing fans. It's not going to be bad for boxing if Bohachuk wins this fight, though. Bohachuk's a real player. He's a solid fighter, very good. But it's just going to be better because, one thing, Bohachuk's not a big name. He's from, you know, a European country, and he's also suffered a defeat in his career already, a setback. And so, you know, you kind of, people are safely assume, you know, oh, we know this guy's already been defeated. Someone can beat him out there. With Ortiz, you don't know that, and he's already a bigger name, so that does matter. And now the final thing: who's going to win this fight? Who's going to win between Virgil Ortiz Jr. challenging Sergey Bohachuk for the WBC interim title? And I'm telling you right now, this is not an easy one for me to pick. It really isn't. But I do believe Virgil Ortiz and his people are smart. I think they see something here. I think they want the challenge. They're hungry. And I believe Virgil Ortiz Jr. is going to stop Sergey Bohachuk in the middle to later rounds. I'd say towards the 9th or 10th round by a stoppage, a wear-down stoppage. I think the body attack by Ortiz, that with his just overall, you know, accumulation punching, I think he's going to come in great shape. And I think he's going to be smart in his attack, and I think he's going to stop Bohachuk. But I really believe Sergey Bohachuk is a really live underdog. I believe he has a serious chance of pulling off this upset right here and retaining his belt. I think he could catch Ortiz and hurt him badly and stop him, or I believe he could wear down Ortiz if he's in really good shape and can take him to the deep waters and drown him. So a world title shot or a world title is conceivably on the line for the winner of this fight. And I cannot wait to see what happens here. Saturday, August 10th on DAZN. This is the Bohachuk versus Ortiz breakdown and prediction video as they collide for the WBC Interim Super Welterweight Championship of the World at 154 pounds. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing, and you've been hit with the truth.